Welcome back. As the title suggests, for this video I'll be upgrading the whole cooling system, so we're prepared for the increase in heat from the turbo. Let's take a look at what we've got here. So the main piece will be this upgraded IL Motorsport radiator. It is fully aluminium, unlike the factory one, which is part plastic. There the end pieces are plastic, and due to the heat cycles over the years this becomes brittle and eventually it starts leaking, and here this shouldn't be an issue. This specific one is the 42mm thick one. They do offer one what is even bigger than this. I don't think this will really be necessary. I also don't think it fits with air conditioning, which the car does have, so I went with this one. Yeah, the original radiator, according to the internet at least, once the plastic becomes brown or green, it is prone to failure in the near future. I think it probably was visible in one of the earlier videos. The one in the car is absolutely brown, so who knows how long it will still last. Could be next week, could be next year, could be another 5 years. I've seen people commenting that they drove with brown tanks for 5 years or so. Either way, I'm not taking the risk, and we need the improved cooling for the turbo, so this will be a good upgrade. And yeah, it should be basically plug and play. We'll have to transfer the fans onto this side from the car. It did come with these spacers, I guess. I'm not entirely sure what they're for or if they're really necessary. I'll find out, I guess. Yeah. To go with the radiator, I also have their rear out kit. So let's take a look at that next. So here are the pieces for the rear out. Why are we doing this? Well, when Mazda originally designed the engine for a front-wheel drive car, the engine was mounted like that instead of like that in the MX-5, and the coolant flowed from one side to the other. That, however, is no longer applied for the MX-5, where the coolant flows in from the front and sort of also goes out from the front. This leaves the fourth cylinder in the back prone to overheating, especially if you introduce stuff like a turbo that heavily increases the workload and heat. So to combat this problem, there's a bunch of similar kits like this that will route the coolant from the radiator to the back of the engine using this hose, and these pieces to connect it at the back of the engine instead of in the front. Unsure if this is really needed. The opinions are a little divided on this, but I'd rather not take the risk. The overall sentiment seems to be that it is useful, so I'm going to do it. We'll see later in the engine bay. I'll try to show more how it is routed to make it a little clearer. And to finish it off, a new thermostat. The current one in the car isn't broken as far as I know, but this is good preventative maintenance. I think this one also opens a few degrees earlier than the factory one. Not really necessary right now, but I think with the increase in heat from the turbo in the future, this should be useful as well. And lastly, we have some more aesthetics oriented pieces. As previously mentioned, I also want the whole thing to look nice. This is a new aluminium coolant tank. I would have liked to get the Dave Fab one to match with the other things. Unfortunately, it's hard to get and way too expensive for what it is. So I have this as an alternative, which I think looks fine enough. And we have this Slampanel from IL Motorsport. I think the area on the car looks a little weird with like a, I guess, aluminium piece in the bumper and a bunch of gaps, and this seals it off and is supposed to keep the airflow from escaping and forcing it into the radiator, I guess. And these are some silicone hoses that go towards the heater in the firewall. I got these from the previous owner. He didn't install them. So since the coolant is getting drained and I'm working on the whole system, now is a good time to replace them. I also have this piece, but that'll be for a future video, and I'll explain more when the time comes. But this will fit a temperature sensor. So let's get to the car, drain the coolant, and we can take off the old pieces. So at the engine bay, we can see the original radiator is very much discolored. As mentioned, so far not leaking. Here's the upper radiator hose, which the previous owner has replaced with a silicone version. The lower one can be seen there, going all the way down there. It does appear to be seeping some coolant, as it is a little wet. Nothing serious. The new hose will go from here at the side to the back. So let's drain the coolant and take out the radiator. The under tray actually offers a very convenient access hole in the middle to drain the coolant, but the piece to undo it actually wanted to strip right away. So instead I'm just taking off the hose to the bigger access port instead, but it does make a bit of a mess. With the coolant draining, next will be these brackets and the fan plug, and afterwards this upper radiator hose right here. I did have to remove one more plug for the other fan over here, and I've moved the wiring loom to the side. And lastly, there's this hose and the overflow tank. So with the old one removed, we can now place back the new one. Next up, we can remove the thermostat housing, or this neck piece. Old thermostat, as mentioned, nothing seemingly wrong with it, but it's one of those while you're in there. Preventive maintenance. So with the thermostat removed, we will now use this block-off plate, as the thermostat will move to the back of the engine. So with a new gasket, there we go. Now we can remove the radiator and swap over the fans. Well, it's not in terrible condition, but well, here you can see the width of it, very tiny. So the new one should really be a massive upgrade. Let's swap over the fence. Oh dear. Well, that kind of snapped. Although it does seem to be just a block. Let's see what can be done. It's a little rusty down here. Oh, looks like that one is the same. I found a bolt behind one of the fans. Okay, weird. I'll need to see if I can undo these. Maybe it's not necessary. Need to see how it is on the new radiator. In the meantime, I'll sand this down a little and give it a bit of paint in an attempt to prevent it from rusting further. Why couldn't they just do it like here, as just some pins to hold it in? Oh well. Here we can really see the massive difference between the old and the new one. Looks like the new one is like 3 times as thick. Quite the upgrade. Interesting side note, we can also see the brace for the anti-roll bars that installed last video, and the aircon condenser, which has definitely seen much better days and seems to be bent, or the mounting points are bent, I'm not sure. Either way, the gap is a lot smaller here compared to here. Unfortunately, it seems you cannot buy these anymore over here. So the only option I seem to have is buying one off eBay out the US, but that's for another time. So while the other fan bracket is drying, we can transfer over other pieces, such as these rubber grommets. And the main fan, which goes right here. It looked like the spare bolt that was down here is the same kind like the other ones for mounting the AC fan. I don't think I can reuse these, so I will see if I can get away with using 3. Otherwise I might need to see if I can find a replacement. So for the reroute and routing it to the back of the engine, there is no way for me to properly film this. There's so little space, but it basically needs to go back here. You can see the heater hoses right here, which I will also be replacing, and this one goes back here, and that's where the other piece from the reroute kit needs to go. So yeah, I'll have to take that off and then put the new one on. Let's go. After a bunch of struggle, got both of the hoses off. Unfortunately, I also snapped the dipstick ring. Well, shouldn't be an expensive piece, so I'll swap it out, whatever. Now to take off the stuff at the back. Well, as I'm having no luck removing the back piece of the engine, I'll move on to adding the other fan. So we can at least make some sort of progress. Seems this bracket is slightly off. Well, since I anyway really only have 3 bolts, I guess I'll just leave that one out for now. Right, I can at least drop the radiator back in. Okay, bit of a problem. The radiator seems to hit the aircon condenser, and there's no way to pull these brackets back far enough for it to fit. Okay, I'm not sure what to do now. It looks like the condenser is mounted on these brackets. Maybe I can move it to the other side. There should be space enough, I think. I'll give that a try, I guess. Okay, I messed around a while. The air conditioning on this side is now on the opposite side of the bracket, which gives it just enough space to fit. There is basically no clearance on this side, but due to the design there's no way for me to also get it on the other side on this one. I think this will do. The brackets can now actually fit, so I guess it's good enough. I still haven't managed to make the rear neck, but I think I'll take a break for today, so give it another shot tomorrow. Okay, quick little update in between. It's quite a while later since the last clip. I managed to get off the hose, and every required piece but this one bolt over there, which you can just see, I think, I hope. For some reason it has rounded off, and yeah, it does not want to come off. I got myself a set of these in an attempt to remove it, so I hope that works. I also realized that placing the rear out extremely likely will not fit with the EGR tube, and since it has to come off anyway for the turbo, I figured I might as well remove it. I ordered some Blockoff plates, which unfortunately haven't arrived yet. Even more unfortunately, when removing the valve, one of the bolts snapped and is now stuck in there. I'm in the process of removing everything. What a hell of a job to sort it out one way or another. I had planned to paint this piece at a later date, but I really do not wish to take this off again. What a pain in the ass. So I have decided to fast forward the painting portion, and once I finally manage to get this off, I will just paint it and clean it out fully. Yeah, to be continued. Okay, another quick update. I managed to get it off using the 1/2 inch socket. It made it extremely easy, to the point where I don't understand how it didn't come off before. Yeah, it is absolutely mangled. Whatever, I have a replacement. And this piece is off. This is supposed to hold the EGR tube, but this bracket is already destroyed, seemingly. This one is also rounded, so I'm happy that this is actually destroyed. The tube is already gone, as I mentioned, so it's all good. Yeah, now I can start the struggle removing the old gasket and put the new piece on, and I can finally progress, at least in that department. I still need to take off the manifolds. Okay, after hours and hours and hours of struggling, I eventually managed to get the manifold off. And thanks to my colleague Esther and her husband Bert, The broken off bolt is now removed, and he even made it free of charge. So massive shout out, couldn't be happier. And now I can get to cleaning it, because as I guess is visible, it is pretty filthy. I also have the other pieces, like the upper half, the throttle body, and this lower mounting bracket. I'll clean them all up and then make it one color. And then the struggle of putting it back on can continue, I guess. Let's take a look at some of the products. So for cleaning all of it, I have this EGR cleaner and some brake cleaner and a bunch of these bottle brushes. Hopefully that will do the trick. I think it will. Might need some smaller, like old toothbrush and some other minor bits to clean it up. And once it's all clean, I can prepare it further with some sanding. And I have a bunch of paint right here, some primer, and I went with this color. I hope it will look good. I think it's called cast iron. It's a nice kind of darkish gray. I think it's a little bit lighter than the cap. It's very hard to find proper examples of the color, but I think it will look good. And to finish it off, some clear. There will be other pieces painted in this same color at a later date. Not entirely sure which ones yet or when, but that'll be a future video. So let's get to cleaning the pieces and painting them. I sprayed a little test piece to see what the color will look like. You may recognize this part from video number 2, as it was used to hold up the old head unit. Here we can see the parts just before cleaning them. As visible, they're very greasy, oily, dirty looking. Nothing out of the ordinary for 20 plus years of driving, but while it's off, it is worthwhile to clean them all out. Here I am disassembling the throttle body, removing the sensors and such, just to make my painting job easier and more precise. I did plan to also disassemble the actual plate to really properly clean it all out. Unfortunately, the very tiny screws immediately felt like they were stripping, so I've left them on. After spending quite a while with the brushes and the cleaners, here you can see the end result. By no means perfect, but definitely significantly cleaner. Some of the areas were absolutely gunked up with carbon deposits, so I'm pleased with the result and certainly worthwhile doing. Next up, masking off all the parts. Very tedious job, but has to be done. You obviously don't want paint ending up on the internals. After creating a quick construction to be able to hang the parts, I can start applying some layers of primer. Here you can see the result after 3 layers of primer. After a few layers of color and some layers of clear, this is the end result. And with the painting done, I can finally move on. Using a mirror while lying on top of the engine block, I managed to remove the old gasket after also taking out the stud. New neck piece installed and sensor screwed in and connected. New heater hoses all fitted and ready to go. Time to fit the new thermostat. The hole should be pointed upwards. As per IR Motorsport's instructions, I've snipped off the wiggle pin to improve the air bleeding. New gasket, it's metal, probably could have reused it, but with this hell of a job I didn't want to risk it. So lower part is back on with fresh new stainless nuts. Putting it back was easier than taking it off, thankfully. Now the rest can go back on and, well, getting close. Fuel rail back on, also with some fresh new stainless steel wiring clipped in again. Reattach the bracket. Now we can put the upper piece back on. New gasket as well. That can go back in there. This can reconnect over here. Oh. A bit too fast, the wiring. Now it can go back in. And that can reconnect over here. I connect that. Click, click, and click. That one goes here. Reconnect that. Let's see, where the hell did this one go? So, upper piece back on, new hardware, except the long bolts on this side because I couldn't find them in that length. So now the throttle body can go. Lower bracket back on, new mounting piece. Now the hose can connect from the radiator to the back. Off camera I exchanged a bunch of hardware and added the missing bolt over here. So no more rusty bullshit bolts. Let's add the big hose. Looks like it's probably smart to cut a piece off here, which no doubt will be necessary anyway for the intercooler piping, what will go down here when the turbo goes on. And I think even now with the air tube this will not fit, Oh yeah, I'll cut a piece off here to create a bit space. Otherwise, this looks pretty good. It is on back there. Just need to move the clamp. So, nice, good progress. Well, I didn't end up cutting it so far. I think for the intercooler it might need it, but I have to route it past the AC stuff over here, and with a bit of force it fits as is. Not really ideal. Would have been nice if this was maybe half a centimeter more to the left, but oh well. Yeah, almost everything back together now. Okay, I think everything is back together. That one plug, what there was missing, was over there somewhere. Connected the air pipe, and this one right here. The upper and the lower as well are reconnected. All that stuff I think is done. I'll double check it in a little bit, but now we can install the final bit, which something along those lines. It seems to use some spacers, which I think go here and on the other side as well, which will then mount over here. So yeah, I can undo the brackets and those bolts and go from there. Well, that looks pretty good. I'll have to find some new nuts for these. That looks kind of ugly, but overall ties it neatly together,
I guess it's time to put coolant in, and then fingers crossed for no leaks and that everything still works. I don't think I recorded this, so I'll have to put it somewhere in between, but the blanking cap for the EGR at the exhaust side is also on there, so there's no nasty leaks. Okay, got my nice funnel thingy set up. Let's carefully start with pouring in some and see if there are any leaks. So far nothing pouring out, so that's good. I can start pouring the big stuff. Oh no. Oh, it's leaking. Right at the front. Damn it. Oh, it was leaking right here because I undid this bolt to check the length because I don't have a new stainless one. And I forgot to tighten it properly. So now it seems to be fixed. And I can continue adding coolant. Looks like it is basically at the top. The overflow is still empty, so I guess it is almost time to start it. I'll add some more in here and let it warm up so it can cycle through, and hopefully then we'll be good. Okay, the car's still running, so that's great. I made the heating on full blast, and now we need to wait till everything is bled. Add some coolant in the overflow, run it up to temperature, and keep an eye out for leaks. There's something smoking, but there's probably some sprays there. Doesn't appear to leak any coolant so far. Engine starting to calm down. Just need to wait for it to reach operating temperature and for the fans to kick on. So far so good. Car seems to idle well, no errors, so very pleased with that. As far as the EGR goes, well, there are some comments that say it does not show until after a few drives, but the valve is still on there, so I hope it works. We'll see. Gauge is getting closer to the middle, so far so good. The air inside is definitely warm, so that means it's flowing through in the inside correctly. So we're almost at operating temperature. Soon the fan should kick on and Then we'll see if it stays at temperature or if it goes over. Yeah. So far so good still. Well, no more air is coming out. The fans don't kick on for some reason, but it doesn't seem to overheat. If I turn on the AC, then the fans go on, so the fans do work. I guess the radiator just cools so efficiently that it doesn't need the fans. It is not that hot outside today, so yeah, there appear to be no leaks, so I think I can call this a success. I'll put some in the overflow, and I think I can call it a job done finally. So just need to tighten up the bottom plate and put the wheel back on, and can go for test drive. Okay, it's I guess around a week later from the last clip. I drove the car to and from work for the whole week. Zero problems, so very pleased. Also, the car seems to have really picked up some power in the lower RPM range. So I guess cleaning everything out really made a huge difference. There's also no check engine light due to the EGR, so I guess as long as the valve itself is connected, the car is basically fooled into thinking nothing has changed. So that'll stay on there until all the turbo stuff goes on. Yeah, it was a hell of a job. Took way too long, many hours of frustration and busted up hands and arms, but it's done, and the cooling is prepared for more heat, so very pleased with that. Also made some small updates with some nice bolts and stuff, which I will keep doing throughout the progress, because there's plenty of other things that can be replaced. Yeah, not sure I would recommend this job with the engine in. Probably better with the engine out, but I don't have the means to do that. If you're not turboing it, I would not do this. It makes not a lot of sense, I think. But whatever, job is done, so more prepared. Unsure what's next. We'll see. Catch you in the next video.